Good Morning Zimbabwe continues, and you are joined by Mr. Gelfand Kausiyo, the chairman of the ZBC Board Committee on Digitization and Technology. Mr. Kausiyo has been involved in the development of digital marathon plans for South Africa public broadcaster SABC. He is here to discuss the issue of digitization and its impact to the viewers. The International Telecommunication Union set 17 June 2015 as the deadline for the whole world to switch to digital broadcasting. Mr. Kausiyo, welcome to Good Morning Zimbabwe.
Good morning, Abigail, and good morning to the viewers.
Could you explain the meaning of digitization and why we need to have done this by 2015?
Digitization is the process of converting analog signals to digital. Now, this process entails the conversion and the acquisition of equipment and bringing this equipment into the whole broadcast value chain in order to move our environment at ZBC from the tape-based environment to a server-based environment.
So what happens if we fail to digitize and continue to use the current system of broadcasting?
If we fail to digitize, what effectively happens is that the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, is the policy maker in terms of the way broadcasters and other players in the spectrum must behave, and there are rules of engagement as you broadcast as any other player in this spectrum. So if the ZBC is finding itself in the analog spectrum, which is the VHF frequency, when they're supposed to have migrated, the ZBC is not protected. The signal itself is not protected. So effectively, you could end up with another television channel on your ZBC, in something that ridiculous like that, or you could end up with serious interference from the police force or any other users of different frequencies out there. It is an uncontrolled environment. It's undesirable. So you have to migrate.
Okay. So what benefits does digitization bring?
It has a whole host of benefits, especially for the consumer at home, because what happens now is that the consumer is limited in the way in which the consumer receives the ZBC signal at the moment. They only watch perhaps one ZBC channel and maybe channel 2, which is limited to 2 provinces of Zimbabwe. Now with digitization, they have the opportunity to watch not 1, not 2, not 3. There's multiple, a variety of channels. So 1 up to 8, 9, 10, or even all the way up to 20 channels. But I mean, this is the biggest consumer benefit that you get because the number of channels has increased. And in addition, one of the biggest advantages that you get with digitization is the quality, the instant quality of the picture. Gone will be those days with digitization. Gone will be those days where you will receive, squeaky sound on the screen, snowy pictures, and, with digital picture, it's clarity, clear, crystal clear pictures. That's another benefit. Then, of course, you have the other benefit of, watching TV as and when you want. The 8 o'clock news, the Good Morning show at 6 o'clock. If I don't want to wake up, I could easily record it on my decoder, which is a DTT decoder, which will be on the market. So people will effectively, this becomes a real winner for the consumer.
Obviously, this whole process will cost money. How much are we looking at, and who's supposed to fund this project?
It's a huge cost base. I mean, we are talking here, it's a no child play. When we talk digitization, we really have to apply our minds as a country and understand that there are different elements of digitization, from the signal origination, which is the ZBC, then there's the transmission side, which is transmedia. The whole broadcast value chain needs to be digitized across. So we at the ZBC need to take our cameras, they all need to be digital. They must be server-based. In other words, there must be ingest systems in place. They must be digital libraries created, the content must be digitized, everything must play out from a server, the whole workflows must change. And, in order to do all of this, you have a complete suite. You have to build a complete digital server environment. And that will cost the ZBC at the moment to the tune of about $60 million in the first phase. And that's the biggest milestone in the history of broadcasting.
The first phase?
Yes, because you understand, the ZBC there's never been any significant development since the inception of television in this country in 1960. This is the one area where the whole country should really rally behind the digitization of the process. It's something to really look up to for the whole country. So that money is worth every cent and every effort.
So what is currently being done to ensure Zimbabwe missed this deadline? And who is driving this project?
Yeah, what is happening now is a multi-stakeholder initiatives. You know, the policymakers, government on one end, the platform and content platforms like the ZBC on the other end, and then transmission, which is transmedia. And then, of course, you have the retailers, set-top box manufacturers. So all of these stakeholders must speak from the same sort of, sing the same tune from the same hymn book. And we don't believe that there's one person or one department that must drive digitization. It's a multi stakeholder approach. And we believe the ZBC plays an integral role, because we have to we are the interface between the consumer at home and the content provider, and we think our role is much more integral than anyone else along the chain.
So what impact does digitization have to consumers, and what should consumers expect from ZBC?
As I said earlier on, the impact is huge, because then you receive instant quality, more channels, a variety of channels. You know, you could have documentaries, kids programs, you could have news channel, you have, a variety of different channels. And you could also segment those by language. For instance, you could have Shona, news carried out in particular language in Ndebele, and, people are not restricted. The language advantage is good for the consumer as well.
Okay, you have been involved in digital migration for South Africa. What lessons can Zimbabwe draw from that?
There are huge lessons. Zimbabwe, it's an advantage for this country to be where it is at the moment. You don't want to be the first person to go and take on this digital migration and find that there are mistakes that have been made, and we are now going to learn from those mistakes. And our advantage is that we're just going to look at what has happened in South Africa, and we try to avoid some of the mistakes that they've picked up there. And the Malawians, for instance, tried to go digital in the beginning of this year, in January, and they switched off their digitization program immediately 1 week after switch on. So there are lessons because of lack of stakeholder consultation. The Malawians had a problem. In South Africa, you had a situation where there's an aborted takeoff. They try to take off, they stop. They try to take off, they stop. And more than 3, 4, 5 times, because there's lack of an all-inclusive policy. You find that broadcasters start heckling about a few problems here and there. And I think it's an advantage for Zimbabwe, because we are watching, we know exactly what's going on there, we know what's happening in Zambia, across Africa. So we are picking all those lessons and using them to basically prepare ourselves to have what we would like to call almost a perfect launch for Zimbabwe.
Okay. The chairman of the ZBC Board Committee on Digitization and Technology Development, talking to us about digitization, Mr. Gelfand Kausiyo. Thank you very much for coming to Good Morning Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Abigail, and thanks to the listeners and viewers.
Well, Good Morning Zimbabwe takes a break.